So where can I start? I mean, eclectic may be one way of describing it, but looking at a very long day, a very fascinating day. I was very taken by this morning's the choir, getting into the soul. I mean, we very much argue that all the arts are needed to address this climate crisis, not climate change, climate crisis. So getting into the soul and trying to connect with different types of ways of engaging. Um, so I just wrap around some of the things that were said over the day. So Mary Lawless talk. I mean, again, the importance of the arts, but also seeing it through the lens of climate justice. And I think human rights are essential to this. One of my books was Environmental Ethics in Film, and I've been asked to do a new version of it for some reason. But the reason I would argue is that once you're focusing on climate justice, you connect with other areas, whether it's feminism, whether it's dealing with race, class, gender, all the other issues are necessary to engage with climate. It's not just a climate issue. So I think linking to that and making it a human rights issue is essential because we all know the climate crisis is more problematic in the global south and in the global north. So how to sort of frame that. So I think that's really important. And that set the day for what we were trying to do. Um, Mary was talking about promoting the unjust status quo. I mean, that's what it really is about. I mean, we all know there is a status quo being promoted in this way. Um, uh, we all have the right to defend human rights. So we all have that challenge, and I think that was essential to what she said. Um, I have even comments on the questions, but we'll leave that out. So the first panel was defending environmental human rights. Again, really important issues. I remember some comment about a Mexican who was charged for over 14 years for being in a sort of promoting the climate issue. I mean, this is a huge issue that we all know people have to face up to. Um, Fidelma talked about extractivism and colonialism. We heard that a lot today about this extract, and there was a lot of criticism of this image that we have on our poster, as if that defined us. But that is an image that sort of people were talking about. This is not the panacea for the climate crisis either. I hope we all know that wind farms are not going to solve our problems. They're just maybe part of the solution. Harriet talked about the we and how we all need to connect. Link the risk of us all getting together. Human rights defenders as mentors, how to sort of connect in certain ways. Wool talked about voice and visibility and the importance of both of those, how we need to have the voice of speaking together and linking together and linking across and being visible, thinking that sort of visibility. The media is seen as an ecosystem and people choose what they listen to. Again, we keep having this issue that we would say in our conference that are we just speaking to the converted? Are all you environmentally literate? Whereas really we need to talk to other people who are not environmentally literate. I spent the last year and a half interviewing farmers where I come from in the Midlands, and a lot of them absolutely hate environmentalists because they see this urban-rural divide, that it's environmentalists telling farmers what to do, whereas they would argue they're as much environmentalists as us. So again, as Walt was indicating, this binary that we sort of try to sort of always think that we know the narrative, we know the story, where we need to be always open. And this notion of empathy was mentioned a lot today, that we need to be empathetic towards different people's understanding of what the environmental issue and everything else as well. Moving on, we had a break, thank God. So then we had the arts and the environment. So we had two panels here on the arts and the environment, which came at it from different ways. And we all very much argue that the arts from all angles. I'm a film scholar, so I would argue that the film medium can create ways of creating creative imaginaries, new ways of telling the story. So storytelling from fine arts to poetry to all the arts are really important. So art is nature versus art versus nature is art is a phrase that resonated with me in some ways. How do we sort of play that one out? Um, um, and we were even sort of asked to close our eyes and think and connect with nature, with Mother Nature. So, as a film scholar, I'm sort of very into films like Avatar, where it's all about home tree and connecting to that deep sense of the oak and that storytelling that was going on, and the sort of the really connecting with that. The three T's. I'm from the Midlands, so my T's are core. Sort of the truth of art, the reality and the true nature. And I even didn't take them all down, but there's three T's anyway. So remember what the three T's were. So my question is, as an academic, is that would be your exam. Did you remember the three T's? Um, Tenderness of vulnerability of makers, the ecologies of care. Um, Luke talked about the bogs in the Midlands. I'm a bogman myself, so I'm sort of very interested in that sort of notion of bogland and how that connection of landscape and land and nature is really sort of, there's a lot of literature in that around that. The carve out space of perspectives, place in transition. Again, we have our own climate justice issues in Ireland, and that was sort of first generation of that would be around Board na Mona and how it dealt with the people who worked on the bog. And most of my farmer friends, who some of them worked on the bog, said it was done badly. So there's a lot of issues around whether how we deal with transition, and we have to sort of deal with farmers in transitioning from a monoculture to a more sustainable environmental sort of area. So there's a lot of debates going on that at the moment. We, my colleague Ellen was talking about eco-criticism. I mean, I'm an eco-film scholar. So how do we use the lens of sort of looking at different arts to understand the climate in a different way, to tell a new story, to get us to step into the shoes of different ways of telling the story. So that was really important. And then thank God for another break. And then we had lunch and it was fantastic. A bit slow, I felt at times, but it was fine at the end. So then at 2 o'clock, we came back. Well, it was a bit later than two, and Porrick gave a stunning performance to try and marshal a bigger crowd of people to try and talk about climate science and activism. Again, huge amount of issues, and I could go on, but I think I'll really go very fast and just say that 2 and 3 were very sort of connected in lots of ways. I mean, there's no point in me telling me what Dave did at the end. There was a lot of stuff that were sort of I could talk about for ages, and I would critique sometimes that the journalism needs to create new imaginaries as well, and sort of how to link fine arts, journalism, poetry, music. All the arts have a role to play, and we all have a sort of a connection that is really important. But as was echoed a lot of the times today, is how do we create an act of hope? I think that's a real challenge at the moment. In a current world that's, in my lifetime, I've never seen it as bad. And yet we know the climate crisis is getting worse. So how do we, as academics, as artists, as scholars, as people, as public people, how do we sort of find ways to reinstill that act of hope and use our everyday experience to try and drive the narrative forward? We in our centre, our institute, are always trying to look at ways to do that, but academics need to come out of any ivory tower, as Trish was saying, and find ways of connecting in different ways. So I'll leave it there. It's just finding all the routes. So I hope you will all take notes from today and find your own way through that. I'm a character who writes down notes of everything. So Dave will know this, and Dermot, I will have pages and pages of notes from this country. Jeez. Except for but they could be in my notes, Dave. It's just I can't see it because my eyesight is so bad at the moment. But please do engage with us in the centre, and please hope we can continue on with these conferences as being an open space where we're not trying to sort of push any agenda, but we're always trying to find ways of finding connections between different stakeholders. And that's the whole role of this institute. Thank you very much. So
Yeah. She's there. Yeah. 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 Well, our panel, I just have a few thank yous to say. So our panelists can stay seated here, or retake the seats. Up to you. So thank you for bearing with us and staying until the end. So, as I said, a few thank yous. Um, and apologies if any of these people are no longer in the room, but in no particular order, Marcella Bannon, our cultural arts officer and DCU Arts and Culture for co-funding the conference. A special thank you to Dr. Ellen Howley, my colleague who was central to planning and conceiving of the program today, to Adela and Barbara and their colleagues from the Research Project Administration team who helped a huge amount with the organization of the conference. Our keynote speaker this morning, Mary Lawler, as well as her team, including Ed O'Donovan, and colleagues in Frontline Defenders on the work that went into the Memorandum of Understanding that we signed with them today. All of our speakers and moderators throughout the day. The wonderful DCU Campus Choir for opening the conference this morning. Poet Grace Willents for her wonderful poetry reading this afternoon. Our team of conference volunteers who've been helping throughout the day. Owen Campbell, who did all the technical stuff behind the scenes. Thank you very much, Owen. The estates and catering team here in DCU. And last but most importantly, thank you to our Institute Coordinator, Stephanie MacDonald. Dara Kyo, our president, in his opening remarks this morning, mentioned that this is Stephanie's last week working with us in the Institute. I think Stephanie was possibly out of the room when Dara mentioned that. So Stephanie got a round of applause in the morning, but on behalf of myself and Dave and Pat and the entire team in the Institute, I want to say a huge thank you to Stephanie for all of her work over more than 3 years now. Stephanie has been a stalwart, the rock of the centre. I don't think she'll be sorry to see the back of these conferences. But she was central to everything we've done in the Institute over the last 3 years. And Stephanie would like to make a small presentation to you. So that brings us to the end of this part of the conference. I'll just before the Landless performance is in a different venue, and I'll say tell you how to get there in just a minute. I just before wrapping up wanted to flag something about our plans for the rest of the year. We are in the early stages of planning an event to mark the 10th anniversary of the Paris Agreement in collaboration with the French Embassy here in Ireland, and we hope to have a range of high-profile speakers to discuss the importance of the agreement and to examine its legacy. So we will, of course, be in touch with you all in due course with further details of that. And if you'd like to keep in touch with our work and you're not yet a subscriber to our newsletter, please sign up at our website, dcu.ie/climate, and follow us on social media. LinkedIn and Blue Sky are our current social media platforms of preference. We will be posting, so Owen has been recording all of the sessions today. We will be posting recordings of all of the sessions if you would like to watch back, or if you'd like to share the content with any friends or colleagues. So that brings us to a close. As I said, the performance by Landless is in a different venue. It's in the Interfaith Centre, which is kind of halfway across campus from here, but we're going to have volunteers at different staging posts along the way to make sure that you don't get lost. We did have a separate registration, Eventbrite registration for that performance, but there is some space at the back of the room. So if you didn't sign up for that part of today and you'd like to join, please just come along. So I hope many of you will be able to join us for that part of the evening. And thank you again for joining us today.